Hello, California, when you're ready to fly, we've got more planes in the sky. And when you're rushed, won't you leave it to us, 'cause we'll make your time fly. Hello, California, PSA is our name. Your skies are home for our planes. And every mile we are wearing a smile to help your spirits soar. Catch us, PSA, we're waiting to hear from you. Call us, PSA, we're saving a seat for you. Catch us, PSA, we'll make life right for you. Call us, PSA, we're waiting to hear from you. Catch us, PSA, we'll make life right for you. Call us, PSA, we're waiting to hear
Back across
from you.
Tokyo. And after I took my check ride and finished my interview, they said, well, you're qualified to fly the C-54, but you're a civilian now and you're going to have to get an instrument rating. And you go back to San Diego and get your instrument rating and we'll hold the position open for you. So I came down to San Diego and met Kenny Freakin. And he was the instructor in Fairchild 5. That's the little Fairchild PT-19 off to the left. Kenny always considered this the seed of the flight school and of the airline. It was the first airplane that he ever had. There's a lot of pilots here, and when Kenny gave me my instrument rating in that Fairchild 5, the only thing I had for instruments was a rate of climb, an airspeed, needle and ball, and a tack. No, I didn't have any artificial horizon and no directional drive. A steep rate, a steep turn was 2 needle widths. In the needle and ball was 2 needles. Standard rate was just 1 needle. We served Burbank, we served LA, and we landed at Burbank for serving LA. So he said, well, I know where I can get a DC-3 for $20,000. So he went to the bank, and the bank said, you guys have got to be crazy. We're not going to loan you $20,000 to buy a DC-3. So Kenny knew a person by George Batchelor. He was in Burbank, and he leased us an airplane for $1,000 a month. And that's how we really got started. And we only had this leased airplane for 3 or 4 months, and it didn't work out very good because they had to do the maintenance on it and so forth. And the flight started on May 6th of '49 on a Friday. And Kenny said, Jesus, where are we going to get these passengers? And the guy called him from Oakland. He says, Kenny, you got to come up here because I've got 28 passengers waiting to come down to San Diego, and I got the money in my back pocket. So what we decided to do, and Kenny's idea, he said, now you know, the ships leave out of the Bay Area, Navy ships, on training missions, and they go out over the Pacific for a week. And then they come into San Diego Friday night, about 4 o'clock, and they give all these sailors shore duty for the weekend. And he said, let's go down there and we'll sell these passengers tickets to fly back to the Bay Area. And sure enough, that's how we first got our first passengers, and then we got about 26 of them, I believe, in that area. But you see, the problem that Kenny had, and we had, Kenny said, look, we got to have the fares from San Diego to LA and from LA to San Francisco competitive with the buses. We don't want to try to compete with these airlines because the airlines was about 5 times the cost of our fare. So the fare was set up from San Diego to Burbank, the same as the bus, about $5. And then from Burbank to Oakland was another $10. And from San Diego to San Francisco was roughly a little over $15. And that was the fare. So the airline got started, and I'll tell you, we gradually grew and ended up with 4 DC-3s. And I'll tell you, this is the reason I wanted to have as many stewardesses here as I possibly could today, because I want to tell you what they had to go through in the back of that airplane. Now you got to remember, these airplanes were just converted from Air Force C-47s. They had no heating capacity, no air conditioning at all. And on those flights those days, everybody smoked. And so our procedure was this. The flight attendant, or the stewardess, we always call them stewardesses, would come up in front and say, Leo, that smoke is so bad in the back of the airplane, I can cut it with a knife. And so what we would do, we just open the cockpit door on the left side, and man, that old smoke would come up that side and out and clean out the entire back of the airplane. School of Aeronautics, PSA, Pacific Southwest Airline was just a name. Freaking School of Aeronautics owned everything until they went public. And that was in the late, even after the DC-4. And I went with Kenny and Homer Beckley to pick up a DC-4 that we were buying from United in New York. It was going through a big inspection there. And Kenny said, now Leo, when we go back there, don't mention PSA. Don't mention PSA, because if you do, then they're not going to sell us that airplane. But sure enough, that night we went out for, I have to laugh, we went out for dinner with one of the vice presidents of United Airlines. And the guy said, asked Kenny, he said, I just don't understand it. You're a flight school and you're buying a DC-4. What in the heck is a flight school going to do with a DC-4? Well, Kenny had the answer, and he says, well, you know, the flight school's kind of peeling off and so forth, so we're considering hauling fruit and vegetables and stuff out of Mexico with this DC-4. So anyway, we picked up the DC-4 and brought it back to San Diego. And of course, that was a big jump, because we went from a 31-seat airplane, which the DC-3 was 31, to 70. So that was a big sell. And we still had to add another stewardess, and they had 4 engines and so forth, but still 2 pilots. One thing I wanted to mention that was mentioned in the paper this morning, if you read that article, when the airline started, the captains got $30 a round trip in the DC-3. The co-pilots got $20 a round trip. And you know what the stewardesses got? $10. A round trip was about 6 hours.
So, Mr. Gibbs, you're here today at PSA's 65th anniversary.
Yeah.
What do you think about PSA?
Well, I knew several of the people that started, and many of my people that worked for me went down and went to work with PSA. And I flew PSA a couple times a week to Oakland. So I was been pretty well over the years involved.
Now, your name is Gibbs, so you're associated with Gibbs Flying Service.
That's right, yeah.
And what year did you found your business?
I started to learn to fly in 1930, and 1930 in Kearny Mesa, and bought 25 acres for $250 and started an airport.
We think of pilots as being responsible for the airline's success, but in reality, it was probably the flight attendants more than the pilots that made the airline so successful. Would you agree with that? At least
Oh, I would certainly agree with that, because you see, the stewardesses and flight attendants, they had contact with the passengers in the back of the airplane. In a DC-3, it was from San Diego to San Francisco was 3 hours. So they had time in that flight, on a 3-hour flight, to visit with every passenger and talk to them. And so it was really, the stewardess did a great job of selling the airline. And the early days, we hired very attractive stewardesses, and people always flew on the airline, I believe, because they enjoyed the company that was made available, and the stewardesses. And I never will forget that one of the things that made me convinced that the airline was doing so well, and I had a flight on the DC-3 where we allowed everybody to come up into the cockpit and visit with the captain and the co-pilot, and this gentleman came up in the cockpit and handed me his business card, and his business card, he was the president of Standard Oil. And he says, you know, my employees think I'm crazy for flying this airline, but I want you folks to know that you're going to do well, and I really enjoy flying PSA from San Diego to San Francisco.
what would you say is the secret of PSA's success? Would you say it's the people overall in the company?
Yes, and I would like to make this, it was the people and the work for PSA, from the stewardesses, the flight crews, the mechanics, the station agents.
Hello, California, when you're ready to fly. We've got more planes in the sky. And when you're rushed, won't you leave it to us? 'Cause we'll make your time fly. Hello, California, PSA is our name. Your skies are home for our planes, and every mile